Hey, 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 hello. Here we are. Yeah, I think I got that transition right and everything. Welcome to John Park's Workshop. It's me, John Park. That cool track you were listening to is from the band Infinity Shred, which at least one member of Infinity Shred is an Adafruiter, or was an Adafruiter. So I thought that was an appropriate... hey, look, that skull is still there. I thought that was an appropriate song for our skull-filled shenanigans we're going to get up to today. So, good, we got an audio check-in, and it looks like things are working. I just rebooted my little Adafruit I/O thing. Actually, the power had come out of the power relay that science allows the siren to go off when my audio ditches and someone notices who's got this special button out there. So we're ready for audio mishaps. That's probably a good thing, right? So, hey, we've got some interesting stuff here today. As you can tell, we're really starting to gear up for Halloween. I've got a Scully shirt on today, and we're doing some Scully stuff. Let's see. Ooh, my voice level could be higher. Let me boost that up. That's probably a little better. Yeah? All right. -3 dB peak. Average -9. Yeah, okay, we'll boost that up a little bit. So I'm gonna start off with a little coupon code for you here today. So the coupon code for today is SOCKET. S-O-C-K-E-T, SOCKET will get you 10% off in the Adafruit store on anything and everything that your heart could desire, from tools to electronics to books, to microcontrollers, to apparel, to stickers, patches, all kinds of great things. NeoPixels, you might want to get some more NeoPixels before Halloween gets too close. And that does have a couple of exceptions, which are gift certificates, subscriptions, and software. But you can use SOCKET in your cart today to get 10% off. And also, I believe we have free shipping for orders over $200. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. So go load up on good stuff because Halloween is approaching fast. And, you know, that's going to bring us to... Ooh, someone said we have some crackly audio. Is my audio crackly, Noah and Pedro? Let me know. So, product of the week. This week, bingo, says Noah and Pedro. Bingo meaning I fixed it? Who knows? Eye socket, that's what the bingo is. Yeah, you got it. So, I'm off to a confusing start with various messages out of order on the chats. But if you're interested in chatting, by the way, head over to Discord or head over to YouTube, because we've got all kinds of good chat going on in those two places. If you're joining us from Twitch or Periscope or Facebook, awesome. But the chat is mostly happening over in those places. Hey, Colin Cunningham just weighing in saying that the sound sounds good. Good. All right. So, product of the week. I love this little thing. It's our Trinket M0, the Adafruit Trinket M0, product ID 3500. These things are awesome. Let me look at that. Look at that little beauty. You can't really appreciate how tiny that is from that picture there, but these things are tiny and amazing. And we can run CircuitPython on them. We can run Arduino on them. We can even run make code on them if you go to maker.makecode.com. Hi, Sean Hines from Ireland. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Oh, maybe I caused the crackle when I pushed the dB up. I'm at +1 dB. I'm going to back off a little bit. Also, sometimes I think it's when I lean down into the mic. So our good friend, the Trinket M0, actually wanted to spend a little extra time on the product of the week because I put together a kind of nifty demo using my Trinket M0. Let me hide this out of here. So Trinket M0, it's a $9 microcontroller board that does a lot of great stuff. Azer Sky says he uses the Trinket M0 to run RGB eyes for a buddy's fursuit head. Very cool. So the thing I was using it for recently is a synthesizer project. So let me pop back over to the downshooter. So this is the Moog Werkstatt, which is an analog synthesizer. kind of all-in-one synthesizer, but does have some patchable elements that we can use to patch in audio. So I'm going to actually throw on some headphones so I can hear what's going on. This is what it sounds like as is. So this is a... Oh, I'm going to be loud for myself, aren't I? Can you hear? There we go. So right now I have it set up for using this little keyboard, this little one-octave keyboard to enter notes. And synthesizers like this use control voltage to convey note information. So an octave is 1 volt. So on a 3-volt microcontroller or 3.3-volt microcontroller like the Trinket M0, we can actually send up to 3 octaves worth of note data. So right here, I'm just pressing these little keys. But what I did was, this thing does not have an arpeggiator. If you're not familiar with an arpeggiator, it's it's an effect that's built into, or a function that's built into a lot of synthesizers these days that allows you to press one note and then a small sequence of notes will repeat based on that note you pressed as the fundamental. So here you can see I've got a little Trinket running a CircuitPython program, and I'll show you in a second. And all I'm going to do is plug in the output of the DAC. The pin on here that has analog out is pin 1? Yeah, pin 1. I'm going to plug the output of that into the exponential voltage control oscillator input. And now, I might need to turn that up for you. Here, I'll just let it play. Tell me how those levels are. See, now you see I get this pretty cool arpeggiation. You might be familiar to you. This arpeggio that I have running right now is basically the Stranger Things theme. And so while that runs, let me pop up the code that I have running on that. Let's see, here's Moo. Got this popped up, so I got it too. So this little program here that I wrote, it is essentially sending out voltages over that pin, and I've associated those analog outputs with these intervals. So I have the tonic at 1740 analog out value, and then an octave above that is this 22950, and this is based on it being a 10-bit DAC, I think. And so I have a little array that creates a list that we can use of those intervals. Oh, the music's too loud for my voice, sorry. Lower that a bit. Can't hear what I'm saying. All right, back up a little bit. I'll lower that. How about now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, turn down the synthesizer. Okay, you got it. Sorry about that. So what I've done in this CircuitPython program is I've set up intervals that are different analog outputs on the DAC that's on the Trinket. I've got a little list. I should call it a list, not an array. We're in Python now. I've got a list of those, and now what I'm doing is creating another list that's an arpeggio of a selection of those intervals. So this one I have right now is, turn up my audio. How's that? So this one I have right now is this Stranger Things sound. And yes, all right. And now what I'm going to do is comment this one out, and I've set up some other arpeggios. So here's a different arpeggio, and all it takes is choosing some notes to loop through. So I'm gonna just save this to the board. I've got to plug in the board. Let's bring this over here. In. All right. And now I'm gonna save that file to the board. What did I do? Did I break something? Yep, let's see, what did I break? Doesn't like something I did. Oh, this is not commented out. Still not like something? Reset the board. Live demo. rating for button presses. Why is it saying that? Is it plugged into a different? No, it's not. All right, let me undo that real quick just to make sure I didn't break anything else. Oh, it's this one. I see it now. Sorry about that. I changed some things right before the show to make that more legible. There we go. I'll turn that up. Back down so you can hear me. So there you go. So that's using the Trinket as an arpeggiator for this little synthesizer, which is pretty cool. You could do a lot more with it. As you can see, I've got a lot of different inputs, but just with a single Trinket, a $9 microcontroller, and a little bit of code in CircuitPython, I'm able to add a really neat function to a synthesizer that did not have that function to start with. So that is why take off these headphones now. That is why the Trinket M0 is our product of the week this week. Shoo! All right, well, let's see. Before I move on to the next thing, I'm just going to get this out of the way, because I'm going to use this space for something else. So before we, whoops. There we go. Put this synthesizer over here. And I'm going to move a couple of circuit playgrounds into the playing field here. And might have to, all right, let's see how that looks. So I'm going to test this before we jump into the Make Code Minute, because we want all that to be ready. All right, so back to there. Okay, we'll turn this off and get those out of my face a little. And yeah, okay, that's not bad. I know the green screen is a little fuzzy there today, but this should work pretty well. All right, so we can do this. It is time for the Make Code Minute. All right, so here's the Make Code Minute today. What we're going to look at is infrared communications between two Circuit Playground Express boards running Make Code. So you can see I've got a couple of Circuit Playground Express boards, and they're both running the same code. So what's happening in this code is I'm using this on infrared receive num pad, and in my button presses I have infrared send number. When I click A, it sends a 1. When I click B, it sends an 8. So both boards are running the same code. That means that if I press the left button on the first Circuit Playground Express, the second Circuit Playground Express is going to invoke this on infrared receive number. And then what I have it doing is a couple things. I'm blinking the little red power LED or indicator LED on and off. And then if that number that it's receiving is a 1, because the left button was pressed, we're going to light up a NeoPixel red. If the number that comes across is 8, I kind of arbitrarily chose these numbers, because the B button was pressed, then the pixel color is going to go to yellow. And which pixel lights up is actually using that same number. So let's do a demo of this right now. So I'm going to take this Circuit Playground Express here, and I'll press the right button. And you can see, this guy's kind of upside down here, let me move him. You can see he's receiving the number 8, so the 8th NeoPixel is lighting up yellow. If I press the other button, he's receiving a 1, so the first, and remember the actual first NeoPixel on here is 0, so the number 1 NeoPixel there is lighting up in red, and it'll work in both directions. Oh, I know that's kind of bright, so you can't see the colors too well. The yellow is very blown out, but that red is definitely red. And so that is how you can use infrared communications on the Circuit Playground Express between two boards inside of Make Code. And I'm underneath this USB cable. And that was your Make Code Minute. All right, well, we can get this stuff out of the way now. And let's see. Ooh, you know what it's probably a good time to do is to talk about the project of the week. So Thank you, Argix. Sweet IR demo, you said. Yeah, you know what? I set up an IR project that's in MakeCode and Learn Guides before. That one might have been prior to Circuit Playground Express. No, I think it's Circuit Playground Express, done in MakeCode. And it was like a little laser tag game. So you can imagine, since these can send and receive different numbers, you could set something up where a whole bunch of them receive one message, or they're tuned to receive individual messages. So I think the IR is a pretty cool thing to try out in the classroom if you are a teacher. Because you might have a bunch of Circuit Playground Expresses and MakeCode set up. So actually, before I move on to the project of the week, one thing I want to mention is a little shop tip, which is, this is one of our nice big 2200 milliamp hour lithium ion 3.7 volt batteries. And I just realized the other day that a piece of, I think it's 3/4 inch or maybe 1 inch heat shrink tubing fits really nicely over those. No real reason other than that I wanted to reinforce the wires, so I hit it with a blob of hot glue, and then I decided to go the full 9 yards and heat shrink it, and it looks pretty cool. So I know the Ruiz brothers are working on some lightsaber stuff of their own, and I think this is the battery of choice for them. So you may want to fatten it up a little bit with some heat shrink tubing for no reason other than it's kind of cool. Azure Skies asks in the chat, is that a 18650 battery cell? I think that is. I think that is the name of that one. And that definitely is the one of choice for saber makers, right? All right, so the project of the week is, so you can see the name right down here at the bottom. It's All-Seeing Skull. And it's actually not going to be called that in the guide, but I just like saying skull. So I wrote it that way, so I'd get to say it at least twice. And you may have seen this on social media or a little preview I did last night on Show and Tell, but I just want to play back this little movie for you. Looping now. So that is a. Get out here. Who's stuck? The movie doesn't want to leave. Oh, it's just on top of things. Can you hear me again? Yes. That is one of our Hallowings with a lens over top. So let me show you the parts here that we've got. So there's our Hallowing. With its little TFT screen on top of it, and this little glass lens on top to give us more of an eyeball look and some magnification, as well as some interesting refractions when you see it from oblique angles and not just straight on. And that dead eye, that second eye, is one of these guys, a PIR motion sensor. And so the reason I'm using that is, A, it looks really cool as a dead eye to have a white milky dome in there, I thought. And B, what I wanted to do was set this up as sort of like a porch Halloween prop or piece of set dressing that will only open its eye when someone walks up to your porch, so for Halloween. Or you could set this on your desk. There's you know, you could set it all kinds of different places, and you could also think about using something like this in a costume if you want. But so those are the main parts. Now, if you're not familiar with a PIR sensor, they are what usually sets the lights on and off in rooms and offices. It's a, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's passive infrared is what PIR stands for, right? I've seen other words, photo something something. I should probably check our Learn Guide, shouldn't I? Pyroelectric or passive. Yeah, that's the word. Pyroelectric or passive infrared sensor. And these boards are great because they take care of, they've got some circuits built onto them. Let me head over to the workbench here for a second, and I'm going to plug in my camera switcher so I can do this from over there. Let's go to that view. There we go. And I'm not going to forget my coffee this time. Bring it over. So let's zoom in a bit on this camera. And here you can see I've got one of these Pir sensors. This is an older one that I think we used to sell. This is the parallax one. This is the newer one that we're currently selling. So that's what I've got in this project. And you can see it's got a bit of circuitry on there that takes care of a lot for you. So you can tune the distance and the timing of the sensing. And I think you can also set it to 2 different modes where it will stay on until it senses motion the second time, kind of like a on-off switch, or it's kind of a momentary mode where if you move, it triggers for a certain amount of time, and then it waits for motion to trigger again. That's the default mode, and that's what I've got it in. This little jumper is what changes that. And what these output is essentially either a low or a high voltage that is read across this data line. So it has power and ground. It's 5 volt. And then it has this data line here that we're going to read with the microcontroller. So you can see on the Halloween, I have this plugged into our little sensor port here. And in the skull, I've got them mounted sort of side by side there. With, as you can see, the power or the 3 lines from the Pir sensor plugged into sensor on the Halloween. I think I'm going to ditch the battery in this project. The battery is only providing 3-ish volts, which I think is not enough for this board. So this is a project that we're going to run off of the USB power, so that can be like one of our, what do we have, a 2 amp, 5 volt power supply that you could plug in. Or you could use a power boost if you were determined to do this with a battery. But I think the battery isn't the right choice for this because I'm going to mount this and try to have it running. So let's see if this guy will cooperate. I'm going to zoom in even further here. Okay, so you can see he just turned off. So what I have set up is in the Arduino code, this is going to run for about 5 seconds when the IR sensor gets triggered, and then it kind of goes to sleep. It closes. Since I figured I would be triggering this the entire time trying to show it to you, I made him a little eye patch out of some gaffer's tape. So I'm going to try to remove the eye patch. Let's see if I can do it without triggering it. So I'm going to hide down below here. These PIR domes, though, they're pretty good at... Oh, yeah, it triggered. Yeah, I think even just my hand right here triggered it. Okay, so we'll see, though, what should happen, you can see he's looking around, is after a few seconds, we'll see if he... Yeah, so because I'm staying perfectly still, it's not triggering, and that's that mode switch. And now if I move a little, you can see it just triggered again. And now, hopefully it'll stay triggered just by me kind of being here moving around a little bit. If I can get that to focus. So you can see I was able to get the dome in a pretty good, fairly realistic eye socket depth there. Yeah, focus doesn't want to look at that. And so the way I did that, let's zoom out here just to look at the construction a little more, is I took one of these $5 hardware store skulls, or you could get them at a hobby shop or a craft store probably. Pull the tag out of there. And there's actually a seam here from the part line from how this is molded and then assembled. I cut it along that. And so I just got a box cutter out. And you want to be careful with this. You could also probably use a saw on this, or a Dremel tool might be a good choice. But I just held it safely, keeping my hands out of the path of slipping with this, and just dug into here and worked my way down, flipped it around, did it again. So we end up with the back end of the skull taken off. You could put this back on if you wanted to. You might need a little hole for running your wire. Or like I said, you could use a power boost and a big battery in there if you like. So you can put that back on. What I'm going to do is hang mine. So I actually don't want this back on here because I'm going to hang that on the door. So having this be flat is kind of a good thing. So you can see just as it sits there on the table, that's how it'll look. And then the code that's running on here is very similar to the default code from the Teensy Eyeball project that Phil B created. Oh, it noticed me again. And it's also very similar to the code that's flashed onto the circuit, not the circuit, the Hello Wing when you get it. But under some advice from Phil B, what I did was I changed a couple of things around. One, I think, I'm trying to remember, this was a couple days ago. I restricted the pupil so that it is always fairly tiny, just because I thought that was scary looking. The default code will actually dilate the pupil based on brightness, which is also kind of cool. But buried back there in the skull, it's mostly dark all the time anyway. So I decided to keep that restricted and kind of menacing looking. And then I have the added code that uses the Pir sensor to essentially turn it on and off. And then also Phil B was able to help me find some parts in the code. This is an Arduino code where we can... Oh, I'm just noticing this camera is way zoomed. Hello. Phil helped me find a part in the code where we could restrict the motion. So normally, let me fire this one up. What you'll see is the eyeball looks around. Oh, no, you know what? I updated this with my code. This is exactly what's running on there. So normally, though, the eyeball will look around a much wider range. So it'll look further left and right. Since my eyeball is back inside of this socket a bit, that made poor skull here look a bit cross-eyed. And it also makes it look like he's just kind of looking around, which is a cool effect, but I wanted this to be looking at the person and kind of regarding them and looking around the area of the person that walks up to the skull. So I thought it was nice to have a little restricted range of motion. I also decided to do away with the blinks. Obviously, there's realism and then there's realism, but I figure he's a skull. He doesn't have eyelids anymore, the poor guy, so he's not blinking all the time. You know, he does close that eye after a period and wait for the Pir sensor, but I think that's it. Those are the main changes I made. Now, that code allows you to do things like trigger blinks manually with a button, control the gaze direction with a joystick. So there's a number of things you can do with this code to customize it, as well as the graphics. So you can change to dragon eye, goat eye, no sclera eye, and probably about 2 others. Just by commenting out lines in the code, there's a graphics directory that contains the arrays for those. And then there's also some conversion utilities if you want to create your own graphics. The guide that Phil wrote for the teensy eyes goes into all of that. So I'm going to link to that in my guide. And so that is my all-seeing eye project. I'm going to be putting a guide out in the Learn system tomorrow. Let's see if this thing is... Hey, this thing is working. So look for that if you're interested in making your own skull. I did see there was a great suggestion from someone on Twitter about using a servo or some other way actuating the mouth, which would be cool. Right now I don't have audio working on this. This really is a pretty intensive sketch and it uses up a lot of the available resources on the Hello Wing to do the eye animation, but we may, in the future, as we optimize the way that that's working, we may be able to have the available resources to do things like running a servo and using audio over the speaker. Could be pushing it, but even just like this, I think it's a very cool project, and you know, it's a Hello Wing and a Pir sensor, a dome, power, and a $5 skull. And obviously you can put this into pumpkins and other Halloween-y things, but let us know. Come hang out in the chat. Bring yours on show and tell. We would love to see what people do with their Hello Wings or other TFT displays and Arduino projects, or yeah, these will be an Arduino. And also there's the Raspberry Pi ones and the Pi Bonnet. So there's a lot of ways in the Adafruit Learn system to create eyeballs. And yes, Phil B, Azure Sky says in Discord, of course Phil B would have a dragon eye in there. He has his dragon eye, looks amazing. So let's see, that is that is the show and tell part of showing you this project. And then if you're interested in making your own, check in tomorrow, by tomorrow evening for the guide. And let's see, with that, we can see if there's any questions or thoughts over in the in the chats. Let's see. Oh, Yanni Thurn, so you could put the PIR in the nose and then use 2 hollow wings? Yeah, you could definitely maybe even put it in the mouth. I think if the mouth was open a little bit, that PIR sensor is pretty sensitive, and you'd still be able to sense motion and put 2 eyes in there if you want. But I was, like I said, I was very pleased with that dead eye look of the PIR sensor there as a gross, dead, milky eye. Ew. So let's see. Oh, I'm just going to check. Someone asked about the Trinket Arpeggiator demo. You're asking about posting the code. Oh, you've built a Minty synth. Those are very cool. You want to send CV out to an Atari Punk console? Yeah, I'll post that code at some point. I'm not really doing a guide on it, so I'll have to try to figure out a good place to post that code. It's just because it's fairly niche, and we're not selling those Werkstatts anymore. But yeah, definitely, if people are interested, I'll post the code for doing an arpeggiator with your Trinket. And of course, you could add buttons and knobs to page through different arpeggio choices and change the tempo. So there's a lot you can do with that little guy. Let's see. I think that's all I got for you today. So I'll just mention again the coupon. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's the PIR sensor code. That's not the coupon code. How about that? That's our coupon code for today, and the coupon code is SOCKET. That'll get you 10% off in the store. So head on over to the Adafruit store, check out all the good stuff we've got going on over there. And if you want to buy the parts to do this project, I'll have a parts list up in the guide tomorrow. But you know the gist of it. Halloween. I don't know if they're in stock yet. They're coming. I promise they're coming. Also check DigiKey. DigiKey will often have our products in stock even when we don't. But check out some of the other good eyeball projects, because we definitely have the goods in the store to create eyeballs, including those really cool new glass lenses, which are not in stock either, I'm so sorry to say. Womp womp. But anyway, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be hanging out in the Discord chat for a little while longer to see what people are up to and if there's any questions. So for Adafruit Industries, I am John Park, and this has been John Park's Workshop. Thank you so much for stopping by.